While the Mimic as a character is quite controversial, I think the source through which we found out about him is even more controversial. At this point, the topic of FNAF books in general is really controversial because it's to the point where you almost need to read in order to understand the story. But is that really true? And even if it was, is it really a bad thing? That's what I'll be talking about today. This video is probably going to be pretty short, but I feel like this is the type of thing that a lot of people have pretty strong opinions about, so I should probably talk about mine. The Fazbear Frights book started a phase of FNAF where we just got a lot of books. It's kind of like phase 4 of the MCU, where we just started getting a lot of projects. We got 12 Fazbear Frights books, and in the aftermath we got 8 Tales from the Pizzaplex books. In between that, we started getting graphic novels of not only the original novel trilogy, but also for the Fazbear Frights stories as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if we started getting Tales from the Pizzaplex graphic novels in the future. We've also gotten books like the Ultimate Guide and the Character Encyclopedia, which many people discredit, and also the Security Breach Files, which I'm still yet to read but plan to do soon, and of course I've heard terrible things about it. In total now, we've gotten around 35 FNAF books, maybe even more, and there's more to come in the future like the movie novel and more Fazbear Frights graphic novels, a Ruin addition to the Security Breach Files, and more. But what I'm really curious about is whether or not we're going to be getting another book series in the future. I feel like there's two different questions that we should pose in this video. One, would I like another book series? And two, should there be another book series? I know those kind of seem like the same question, but they're really not. The main reason the books are so controversial is because many people don't like that these big reveals happen in the books and not in the games. Many people don't like having to read a book in order to understand the story of the games. I get not wanting to do that, but there's people who make videos on the stories anyway, like Ozone with the audiobooks, or me with my summaries. If you don't want to read the stories, you can just listen to someone else reading it or explaining it. Although what you shouldn't do is try to understand it through theories. MatPat's videos are not really good sources of the storylines because he does get things wrong sometimes. That doesn't mean he's always wrong, but he's not the most reliable narrator for the books. That's why audiobooks and summaries are the best way to go, because they're not really about opinions. Sometimes I mention theories within the summaries, but I always make it clear when I'm mentioning an idea or prediction. Also, I get not wanting to read the stories themselves, but if you want to understand the story of the games at all, I don't see why reading a book is the biggest deal breaker. As I said, you don't have to buy or read the books, just watch an audiobook or summary to know the stories, and you'll be just as up to date with the lore as everybody else. And if that's still too much, then even then you won't be completely in the dark. I've discussed in videos before about how the Mimic program is the glitch trap virus, and I think that's very clear, but you don't really have to read the books to know what the Mimic is. Many people say that you have to read the books in order to understand what the endoskeleton in Ruin is, but that's not really true. All the way back in the FNAF VR days, there was the endoskeleton image that was accessed using the numbers and letters 0RGN, which basically spells out origin, probably referring to Glitch Trap. In the main menu of FNAF VR, Glitch Trap mimics Taped Girl's voice. We didn't figure it out then, and we wouldn't have figured it out until Ruin, but without Tales from the Pizzaplex, we definitely still could have. The endoskeleton in Ruin is referred to in the files as Grimmick, which is because it's mimicking Gregory's voice. Given we solved the Vanessa Bunny connection, we definitely could have figured out that the endoskeleton mimicking Gregory's voice was a combination of Gregory's name and what it's doing to Gregory's voice. With that, we could make the voice mimic connection with Glitch Trap again, and we could have connected the mimic endoskeleton to the endoskeleton in the origin image, and we could have figured out that the mimic is Glitch Trap. I understand just saying this could make you think it's a stretch, but just think of the scenario where Tails doesn't exist. Like I said, we solved Vanessa Bunny being what Vanny means, so we could have solved that Gregory Mimic is what Grimmick means. Gregory being Patient 46, while lacking some evidence in game, was theorized about before the GGY story released. We could have figured out that the daycare attendant was from a stage show with the comedy tragedy masks. The reveals in the books don't tell us much that we can't solve using just the games. They just make the answers much more direct and clear. Still, there's people that just ignore the blatant explanations, but whatever. The point is that the books aren't needed to solve the games, they simply help. And even if they were needed, enough people read and enjoy reading the books, like me, that you would know about the stories and their reveals quickly anyway, so the issue of not wanting to read doesn't really matter. My point is simply that the books don't come as a detriment to the series, they come as assistance to help us understand the things that we could have figured out with or without them. So now back to the question, should we get more? I personally really like the books, and they're really fun to make content for, so I would definitely want more. But should we get more? Probably not, honestly. But not because they don't help, and not because I don't want more, but because so many people would just complain about them. I'm not saying you can't have opinions about the books, I'm just saying that many people like me enjoy the books, but many people don't. So while people like me may want more, it might be best that we don't get more simply because many people will think it's a problem. If we were to get more books though, what kind of books would we get? I'd expect to get more probably on whatever the next big era of FNAF is, maybe following Ruin and Help Wanted 2's storyline and still being similar to Frights and Tales, and I think that would be cool. I'd really be cool with any style of book, but while I do enjoy the short stories and the epilogue concept, I think what we should really get more of is full-length books like the Silver Eyes trilogy. The Silver Eyes trilogy books are some of my favorites in the series, not only because I really like the story, but I just like having a full-length book. It would be a lot harder to do content for, but I could definitely make it work. But I think that having full-length chapter books would just be more fun to read and easier to enjoy than the short stories. The short stories don't really have a lot of time to get us to attach to the characters, which is why I really like the idea of sequels, like with Bobby Dots Part 1 and 2, which feature by far my favorite protagonists in FNAF books since Charlie in the Silver Eyes trilogy. But that's exactly the point. The Silver Eyes trilogy gives us more time to get attached to the characters, and for the most part are just more enjoyable. Now, like I said, I wouldn't mind continuing to get short story books. In fact, I would still very much enjoy that. I just think it would be better if we got more full-length chapter books. But who knows, maybe you disagree. I think overall, in general, I would love to get more FNAF books, but I'm not quite sure if the larger FNAF community would agree. So should we get more books? Maybe, maybe not. I guess for now, the answer to that question will have to remain a mystery to be solved whenever the next series of books is inevitably announced. But that's everything there is to talk about for this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and let me know in the comments if you would like to see more FNAF books, and what style you would like to get if we were to get more. But that's all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!